Hi everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Amy. I am from Amy's Zoikel Studio. I teach live virtual art classes, and today I'm going to show you some color mixing with acrylic paint. So the first thing we are going to do, and I've already done it, you're going to need some of the primary colors. So I have red, yellow, blue, and I'm also putting white so that we can do some tints, which are the light colors, and they're really pretty. The other thing we need is something to trace for our color wheel and also some paper. You want to use paper that's kind of smooth so that the paint goes on nicely and it's not going to soak into the paper so much. And then anything round. I have a large roll of duct tape and I'm just tracing a circle this out of the way. And then I'm just gonna like freehand the middle and do the same thing the other way around. Sometimes it's helpful to rotate your paper. Try to get a straight line. And then each of these 4 pie pieces are gonna be broken up into 3 different ones. And I'm just freehanding this. The color wheel will be pretty, but it's not gonna be something we're gonna hang on our wall, so it's okay. Your pie pieces are a little bit uneven. And this is going to give us all of our colors, and we'll do the tints as well. The other thing I'm using is a palette knife. I like to use a palette knife to mix colors. And then of course you need a paintbrush. I like the flat edged one, but I might also need a round one to get into the little corners here. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect, so don't worry if you are going to be painting in everything exact. Okay, so before we even need to mix colors, the first thing we're gonna do is paint our primary colors equidistant from one another on our color wheel. And they're gonna be equidistant because the primary colors are found in nature, although these paints are man-made at a factory somewhere. The primary colors, you can't make them from other colors, but you use them to mix everything else. So I've got red. I'm gonna wash my brush, my water cup here. You also see I have got a paper towel, wipe off any excess paint. And the way to know if they're equidistant, you're gonna have 3 in between. So 1, 2, 3. I'll do yellow, and then I'll skip 1, 2, 3, and I'll do blue, and then there's 1, 2, 3 left before my red. If you accidentally put your primary color in the wrong spot, again, not the end of the world. Acrylics are great because you can paint over them. Depending on the color, you might need more than 1 coat, but they're really friendly that way. And you'll see I'm rotating my paper to allow myself to have like the best angle to paint. So I mentioned it depends what color. So yellow is typically a little more transparent or see-through than some of the other colors. So you might have a hard time overlapping that for full coverage with just 1 coat. Totally normal, just sort of how yellows are. And that's okay. Like this yellow right now, I just used is called medium yellow. And there's another one I love called lemon yellow, because the lemon yellow is a little more vibrant, but unfortunately it's also kind of see-through. So it can be a little bit tricky. This blue that I'm using is just called a primary blue, and the red is called crimson. Most brands have the same types of colors. I am using these from Utrecht Studio Series Acrylic. They're nice large, 8 fluid ounces. That's why I like them. They're not too expensive, so they're great for beginner, middle, advanced use. Okay, we've got our primary colors. The next step is to make our tertiary and our secondary colors. So secondary color is made when you mix 2 primary colors together. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a little bit of yellow, and I'm gonna add red to it because that would be 2 primary colors. Now the tricky thing is it's not gonna be equal parts red and yellow. I'm gonna just be using a little bit of red because it's way more powerful of a color. And that actually looks like a nice orange. So, and I'm gonna put it in between the red and the yellow on my color wheel, as you can see, because that's sort of how eventually once we fill this up, you're gonna actually be able to like read the color wheel. So if you are looking at a full color wheel, you can look at orange and think, how did someone make that? And you can see what colors are around it. And that's sort of how that is done. So a trick I like to do, instead of washing my brush, wiping it off, and then doing all the secondary colors at once, I like to just kind of get one of the pie pieces out of the way, because this is going to be mixing the secondary color orange with the primary color yellow. And that's called a tertiary color, which has a fancy name of yellow orange. So I'm just going to actually take some yellow, and I'm actually going to switch over to my palette knife, mix that around so that I don't end up with like all of the paint on my brush. So taking a little bit of that orange I already made and mixing it with yellow, which the orange has a little red in it. So I'm basically making a very subtle yellow orange. And this is almost a little bit too subtle, so I'm going to add all of the rest of that orange in there. And you can see when I'm scraping the paint together with the palette knife, I'm not wasting any, which is nice. And then I end up with like a little pile of paint. I'm just going to wipe that down so it doesn't dry on there. And I put my brush in the water while I was mixing so that the paint wouldn't dry and ruin the bristles. So this is going to go in between those two. You can see it's a very soft orange, more of an orangey yellow, which is exactly what we wanted. And again, don't worry if you are not painting in the lines. I'm kind of just trying to paint quickly so that you don't have to be watching this forever. Okay, now I need to make my red orange, which is basically orange with a little more red in it. So I'm going to use that paint that I already have and just add a little smidge of red. Again, red's super powerful, as you can see. This got really dark really fast. But I think that's actually the perfect yellow orange, or red orange. I'm actually going to use the paint that's already on my palette knife to get me started. So as long as it feels darker than the orange in the middle, and this is a really subtle shift here, you're in good shape. Some of these colors will be of a smoother shift than others. And this is maybe needs a little more red. So I'm actually going, while this is still wet, just gonna put a little red, kind of mix it right into there. That looks better. Just a little trick. If your paint is still wet, you can mix it right on your canvas, even though this isn't canvas, but we can still use that term. All right, so I've got my oranges done. Wash my brush, wipe off my palette knife. All right, one of my favorite colors to mix is green because it's like so powerful. So green is going to be yellow and blue. So I'm gonna take a little pile of yellow to the side, and then again, just like before, I only need a little bit of blue. So if you see I have much more yellow, mix the two together and I'll get a green. Now you might have gotten a green that's blue-green or yellow-green, and so you can always put this in any of those pie pieces depending on where it fits. I've done this so many times that I've gotten pretty good at knowing the ratios. So I made a really nice green, and so that is going to go where my secondary color goes, right in here in the middle of my two primaries with those two spaces for what will become a blue-green and a yellow-green. So basically, the more colors you know how to make, the more interesting your paintings will be, because there'll be variety. And as a beginner, it can be easy to just use the paint out of the tube, or even use just a tube of green paint, but your painting will look way more interesting if you mix colors. So I'm gonna go and just take a little bit of this green to the side with some more yellow. It's actually kind of tricky to get a yellow green sometimes because the yellow is not as powerful. A little bit more yellow. So you can end up kind of using too much. But since we're making such small piles, it should be okay. Right, that looks good. I just have too much of that other green on my brush, so I'm just gonna clean that off. And then go for my yellow-green. So you can see I have a nice smooth shift. It's lighter because it has more yellow in it, but it still has that green look to it. It's maybe not the prettiest color on its own, but if you were painting a tree, you wanted some leaf variety, that would be perfect. All right, so now I still have a little bit of that regular green there, so I'm just gonna take some more blue and put it in there to get my blue-green. Blue-green is one of my favorite colors. You know, I just love it. It's like turquoise, it's so pretty, reminds me of the ocean. Just my personal preference. Everybody's got favorite colors for whatever reason. That is just not looking blue enough, so I'm gonna add a little bit more blue, mix it up. There we go. You'll know it's a blue-green if it looks blue. And I know that sounds really weird, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you do it. Kind of like, almost as like an emerald green, which has like a little blue tint to it. And you can see it's looking darker as well because it has more blue, and blue is darker than yellow, which is the other primary color in here. All right, got that pie piece done. The last ones we're gonna do are the purples or the violets. Okay, so blue and red make violet. These are kind of equally powerful, so I'm gonna use about the same of each color this time and see what I get. So that actually kind of looks like a red violet, so I'm gonna put a little more blue in. Okay, so that looks good. It's actually kind of dark, but that's probably from the red that I'm using. Some reds are lighter than others. Some of them almost have like a pinkish tint to them, which can make different purples or different oranges even. So when I do like a real painting, not just a color wheel exercise, I use on my palette 2 different reds, 2 different blues, 2 different yellows, and white. And from there you can make almost every color. Sometimes I'll use a green if I'm trying to make some colors duller, and I'll explain that another time. All right, so I've got this purple. I'm gonna take a little smidge of it and add some more red. So I'm trying to get my red violet here. So you want this to really look kind of plum. It should have more of a warm feel to it, whereas the opposite side of this pie piece will have more of a cool feel to it. Warm or hot colors are the yellows, reds, and oranges. So since this color has a lot of red in it, that's why it's a little bit warmer. And then cool colors have blues and greens. And so that blue violet we're gonna make next, okay, will have more blue in it. So I'm gonna go and take some blue, some of that violet I made earlier, a little more blue, Mix those together, and I know it's probably hard to see on the video, but you probably see this is a red or blue, a red or violet. This is more of a true violet, and then this looks more bluish. So that is great. I'm gonna paint that right here. You'll notice I'm not perfectly in the lines, but it's all good. This is more of a painting exercise than anything else, just to get us some colors. All right, so that's my color wheel. 3 primaries, 3 secondaries, and 6 tertiaries. Real quick before I go, since I have all these paints mixed, I'm gonna show you how to make tints. So right now I've got this blue violet on my brush already. Just gonna take a little white over in the side. And you can see if you add white to any color, you get a tint, which is so pretty. Just do a few more. I take a little white, mix it with my red violet. You get this like pinky purple that's lighter. Oops, just wiped a bunch of green on my brush. Let's get that off. Again, a little bit of white to my regular violet. You can see that right there. It's a lot of brush washing and color wheels and color mixing because you want to make sure you're getting the true color. Ooh, that's so pretty. So that's a nice light blue. This was my green. It's actually a blue green, I think. I'm gonna be able to probably mix this. Get too much blue on my brush still. Gotta wash it. Sometimes I try to get away with it, but it doesn't really work. I think I've got some green made right there. Just add a smidge of yellow. There it is. There's my light green. And then I've got my yellow green, a little white, that will go here. Now I definitely have to wash my brush because that plain yellow cannot mix with any blue or it will just look green. Here's how I can get a nice vibrant pale yellow. It's like pops. And I'll take a little more white and mix it with my orange over here. This is more of a true orange, so to get that yellow orange that's lighter, I'm just gonna mix a little bit of yellow into that. That should work. And then I'm gonna take a little red into it. Not yellow, I wanted some white. A little bit of white, and there's my light red orange. And finally, I'm gonna take some white into just plain old red. That is how you get pink. And another time I'll show you how to do dark colors, but from here, again, we've got all of our primary, secondary, tertiary in their true hues, and then all of the tints around. So now you can paint in all the colors and it will be wonderful. So thank you for joining. Please tune in for some more art tips, and I hope to see you soon.